For focus number 4, we collectively chose the state of Kentucky. In this focus, we're doing an analysis of the interagency coordination, collaboration around the target population care. Some of the more well-known services that are accessible for this population are Medicaid and local hospitals. As we all know, Medicaid is state health insurance, and they have contractual agreements with local hospitals, physicians, urgent cares, medical providers, etc. And foster children can choose to have state health coverage up until the age of 26. Social workers will typically assist these members in applying for Medicaid as soon as they're aging out, just to continue to have benefits and have that added service. In addition, we have a lot of nonprofit groups that assist the foster care population. We have churches, we have local food pantries and thrift stores. You maybe have noticed in the first video in our introduction, one of the gentlemen who was aging out was going to a thrift store and buying products to fill his apartment with, and that is very, very common for foster care to children to do that, just because of their varying needs, but also the affordability of it. There is one task force that I found that is planted in Louisville area that is called True Up, and this is a task force of 8 nonprofit agencies inside the Louisville metro area. And basically it's just a task force that seeks to enhance services for foster youth. They want to help the foster children gain life skills, and also just be kind of an area, almost like a committee where they can support one another and lean on one another to get through that rough season of being a foster care member. There's 7 of the largest foster care providers that are affiliated with True Up, and they accomplish a bunch of different things. And they also partner with Metro United Way, and this is their fiscal partner, which seeks to provide help for all to receive financial freedom, education, and quality health. Even with all those benefits and services, there are some gaps in Kentucky. And specifically between 2007 and 2017, the number of kids living with families in foster care increased only 1% in Kentucky, only 1% in a decade. The percentage of foster care kids in group homes rose by 3%. Older foster kids aged 12 and over were increasingly likely to be in group homes. That age group saw a 12% increase over that time period. So you can see that in a decade period, we saw a 1% increase of children living with families. And that is not a good metric. The goal is to have children living with families, and obviously you can see that's not really being done. That's not something that's being accomplished. Group homes, the population is increasing, and so they're needing to really kind of hone in on some of those policies and focus on correcting that. Another gap is kinship care, and what kinship care is when children are taken out of a mom and dad's care and guardianship. They many times can be placed in an uncle's house or a older sibling's house who is, of course, a legal adult, or they could be in the care of a grandparent, and that is what's called as kinship care. And Kentucky right now leads the nation with 9% of its children in relative care, more than double the national average of 4%. And obviously you would think that would be great. They're in the care of family, and that's what we want. However, the issue is that there's no added benefits for families to take on kind of I don't want to call it burden, but take on the work of taking care of a niece or a nephew or a grandchild. The only benefits that are there for them are maybe TANF or SNAP, receiving welfare, things like that. But many times when you have grandparents receiving fixed incomes, they didn't plan to take on 2, 3, 4 grandchildren to provide for full time. And so they don't live below the poverty line, and there's no way for them to offset their income by any means. So they're kind of stuck in a very difficult place. And right now the state doesn't have anything to help support them and to give to them. And one stat I found was that 15,000 Kentucky children would qualify for kinship care, but there is no benefit, no way to support these families providing and taking care of their nieces, their nephews, and their grandchildren. And so that is a critical gap in Kentucky right now. I want you to take a look at that graphic below and note the comparisons of the US average to Kentucky. Kentucky is doing very well and is above average when it comes to things like healthcare, but they are still having issues with education, employment, and their vulnerability. Foster care's vulnerability increases as they age in comparison to that national average. Please refer to the reference page as a link to the sources I used in my research.